Listen, history echoes through the hardwood since a lot of people are doubting the Knicks. In sports, there are rare moments when belief shatters logic, when grit is going to have to topple the glamour, when your heart outpaces the hype. 2004, the Detroit Pistons delivered one of those moments since we just faced them. They were written off by all the analysts, the gamblers, the barbershop debates. The Pistons were supposed to be nothing more than a footnote, food for the mighty Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers at that time had a super team of Shaquille O'Neal. They had Kobe. They even had Karl Malone. They had Gary Payton. All right? Yet, once the confetti fell, it was the blue-collar crew from Detroit that was standing tall, that was dismantling a dynasty. So what I want to do is I want to fast forward to 2025. And the echoes are back. A lot of Boston fans and everybody's betting on Boston. Analytically, they're beloved. During the season, they were a juggernaut. And right now, they're staring down us, the New York Knicks. Right now, we're penciled as a gritty second-round exit, okay? But those are the same type of whispers that filled the air in 2004. I remember that time. And the Celtics look across the court at us. They don't just see Brunson, they see Towns. They see Tom Thibodeau. And what they're looking and really seeing is a history lesson in motion. So that's what I want to talk about today, because there's a lot of Boston fans hitting my page now, okay? Back at that time, Detroit was improbable in terms of a championship run, and we're looking the same way. So I want to look at the things that highlight what makes us a possibility, our mental toughness, okay, the chemistry that we have. In such a short time, this is our first year many of us played together, but it's similar to that Detroit team in 2004, where they got somebody like Rashid, where they got some pieces, Tayshaun Prince, all put together. So in 2004, there was a master class in team basketball, actually. Everybody started talking about play the right way. But Larry Brown was dismissed. Nobody liked him as a coach. That team, they didn't think had enough talent or offense. They simply weren't supposed to win. As a matter of fact, many of them thought they wouldn't even survive the Eastern Conference, the same way people are talking about the Knicks right now. So they had Chauncey Billups, who was Mr. Big Shot. He was a late blooming floor general who had been traded more times than a bad stock. They had Rip Hamilton. He was the mid-range maestro, and he had a motor that never stopped. I mentioned Tayshaun Prince. He was a wiry defender who turned every superstar's night into a struggle session. And then they had Big Ben, the 6'9" center who played like he was 7'4". And he also bench pressed freight trains for breakfast. But I mentioned Rashid. Rashid was like a mercurial stretch big whose talent was only matched by his technical foul totals. Okay? Larry Brown's Pistons played suffocating defense, and they played collective defense. They didn't care who scored. They didn't really care who got headlines. They had one mission in mind: choke the oxygen out of the Lakers offense, and then turn every possession into a street fight. And that so happens to be the formula that the New York Knicks are going to have to follow, because the 2004 Pistons, they did just that. Now, many of you new fans don't really know what I'm talking about. This was the Shaq and Lakers, the Shaq and Kobe Lakers, super team, and they had the power of cohesion as well. On paper, the Lakers were gods. Kobe, Shaq, they were at the height of their powers. They added future Hall of Famers to that mix. Karl Malone come in, Gary Payton come in. Let's just win one more ring for them. That was the mission. And to everybody else in the NBA looked like a cheat code. But here's the thing. The Pistons weren't reading the paper. They were too busy preparing to beat the Lakers' egos with defensive rotations and backdoor cuts. The problem with super teams, then and now, is that the assumption is always that talent will overwhelm chemistry. But the 2004 Pistons proved that 5 players moving in perfect synchronicity can take down 4 Hall of Famers playing musical chairs with touches. Nobody, look, you get it. The Detroit Pistons back then weren't flashy. They were simply relentless. And in 5 games, they rewrote the script. So into the 2025 New York Knicks, built in the lab of resistance. I live near an airport, so don't mind that. Tom Thibodeau's New York Knicks are not your casual fan's dream, which is why so many Knicks fans have a problem these days, because they're casuals. They don't run a ton of transitions. They don't chuck threes like a video game. What we do have is substance, though. The kind that doesn't pop on a stat sheet unless or until you're staring at the scoreboard in the fourth quarter, wondering how they're up by 8. This year's Knicks, they have a core of Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson is the soul of this squad. He's like a modern-day Chauncey Billups with even more wiggle and a stronger post game, an elite level post game. Brunson is a guy you can't speed up. But now we got Mitch back. And he's like Ben Wallace reincarnate. Wild length, elite rim protection, zero interest in the headlines. Add Cat to the mix and he's an X factor. Now I know he's not a defensive juggernaut, but his offensive gravity makes the Knicks dangerous in a few ways that few expected. But then we have OG, Tayshaun Prince, but only muscular. He erases wings like he's Thanos in sneakers. And then you throw in McCall Bridges. McCall Bridges is a connector. He's an off-the-ball genius. He's a defensive pest, and he ties everything else together. But let's not mention Josh Hart. No pun intended, he is the heart. And the Knicks' emotional engine, but he's also one of the best rebounding guards in the league. And then you throw in Deuce, who's an unsung bulldog off the bench. He loves to defend. I mean, the man is out there collecting like he's from a debt collection agency. And then my guy Tibbs, defensive tactician, obsessed with preparation, structure, squeezing every drop of effort from his rotation, even if it's only the starters. The New York Knicks weren't expected to beat Boston. But I got news for you, neither were the Pistons. And I believe that's what's going to happen. We're going to sneak one out for history. Because Boston right now is like a modern day super team. Boston's magnificent. I'm not trying to play that. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, they're an elite wing duo. They have Derek White, who's underrated. Drew Holiday obviously is a champion and defensive stalwart. And then they have our guy KP, who stretches the floor and protects the rim. They even have Al Horford, who brings veteran poise and big-time shot making. But with talent comes expectations and cracks. The Detroit Pistons preyed on the Lakers' lack of cohesion. I know that Boston don't have that problem, but Tom Thibodeau's Knicks, we're looking to do the same thing. We gotta find cracks in their armor. The Celtics have more shot creators, yes. But when those shots don't fall and they can't get in a rhythm, they struggle to find structure. The Knicks, on the other hand, know exactly who we are. We know exactly who we are. Tom Thibodeau has set the identity for this team, and it's a defensive identity. The 2004 Pistons and the 2025 Knicks have a similar philosophy. Both teams earn our defensive stripes by forcing isolation heavy stars into low efficiency shots. In 2004, the Pistons playoff motto was no layups, no rhythm, no mercy. This year, I don't know if we have a motto, but I imagine it would be that we trap, that we switch, and we rotate like swimmers in the Olympics, okay? Robinson is going to protect the rim. OG and McCall, wing stop, we're going to chase wings into dead zones. Brunson, underrated as a post defender though. Josh Hart rebounds like a power forward in the guard's body. So in this series, I am confident, yeah. I am delusional, maybe. But the Celtics' elite scorers are seeing a different kind of fatigue. The one that comes when your every move over a 7-game period is anticipated. Your favorite shot might be denied. Your comfort zone is going to be barricaded by bodies. It's not just any coach. This is Tom Thibodeau. Actually, one of the architects of the defense of one of your championships. all right? But if I'm looking at New York, I'm thinking Brunson's playoff performances have resembled Billups in a major way. He never gets rushed, he never gets rattled, and he's always dangerous. And also like Rip Hamilton, Josh Hart thrives in chaos, crashing boards, hitting timely threes, diving into the fray. Do y'all remember his run last year in the playoffs? And then bringing Cat, who brings a wrinkle that the Pistons didn't have. A stretch big who can run the offense through the elbow or bury you from deep. Think of him as Rasheed Wallace with more finesse, less volatility. And once we get Deuce back on track, even Deuce McBride feels like the spirit of like Lindsey Hunter from the Pistons. A guard who's only interested in making life hell for his opposing ball handlers. The New York Knicks move the ball. We crash the glass. And we'll punish you on second shots now that we got Mitch back. We never win pretty, but we win persistent. More importantly, if we look at the coaches, the similarities are there. Larry Brown and Tom Thibodeau both have no-nonsense DNA. Larry Brown wasn't a winner. He was obsessed with playing the right way. Tom Thibodeau is obsessed with playing every possession like it's Game 7. Brown was identified as a winner once he went to Detroit. Both are teachers. Both demand structure, effort, accountability. Both squeeze their rotations tight and place enormous trust in their guys once they've earned it. When I say not a winner, I mean haven't won a championship. But most importantly, both outcoach the flashier teams by simply being prepared. The Lakers in 2004 had no answer for Detroit's defensive schemes. Boston in 2025 is now facing that similar level of discomfort, courtesy of Tom Thibodeau's deep film study and hopefully in-game adjustments. But the one thing I think is also a constant is that nobody believes in us and using that as fuel. No team relishes doubt more like Tom Thibodeau's teams. We know that as Knicks fans. Just like the Pistons fed off being underdogs, the Knicks, we're going to thrive in the shadow of Boston's expectations. Because damn sure it's not the national media. They're focused on Tatum's legacy. The casual fans, they're waiting for Boston's inevitable finals appearance. Meanwhile, the Knicks are stealing quarters, stealing momentum, and possibly stealing this series at the end of the day. So I'm looking for, hopefully in Game 1, that the Celtics look like world beaters. In Game 2, they start to look a little bit more confused. By Game 4, the whispers will have returned. Wait, can New York actually win this? That's the way I'm seeing the ebbs and flows go. And I think that there are 3 ways that the New York Knicks can finish this job. And I mentioned it before. Make it ugly. In Detroit in 2004, they didn't want to shoot out. They wanted muck, turnovers, missed shots, offensive rebounds. If Boston's tempo drops, then we're going to thrive. Next, we need Brunson to control the game. Just like Billups slowed games down, surgically dissected mismatches, Brunson needs to continue his calm dominance. If he controls pace, then the New York Knicks control the scoreboard. And next, we're going to have to see what we didn't see in the last series. We're going to have to see bench production and role clarity. McBride, Hart, Towns, they all need to understand their moments. Detroit won because every player knew their role to perfection. McCall, I need you to step up. So far, this Knicks squad is showing a growing clarity in that area. And that's the piece that I'm kind of excited about. That's what I'm leaning on in terms of my positivity. The Pistons didn't just win a trophy. They rewrote what we thought a championship team could be. Up until that point, it was expected that another dominant outcome for the Lakers. If we win, it's going to validate Tom Thibodeau. It's going to elevate Brunson to true superstar. It will rewrite Towns' narrative as a soft stat stuffer. is going to crown OG, McCall, and Mitch as elite defenders worthy of banners, not just praise. If we beat Boston and go on to win a chip. But most importantly, it'll signal that the age of super teams can still be disrupted by defense, chemistry, and belief. So shit, I know you're delusional, it's going to be a gentleman's sweep, it's going to be 4-0. Why do you think the Knicks are going to win? That's why. Because although the names change and the eras change, the formula, heart, defense, discipline, it never goes out of style. In 2004, Detroit Pistons, they took down basketball royalty. And it reminded the world that teamwork beats talent when talent forgets to work together. This year, the New York Knicks are daring to dream the same dream. The colors are different, the names are new, but the message remains eternal. Never count out the team that fights hard. I know Boston got a reputation for scrapping as well. Yeah, but you don't get any more desperate than the underdog does. You don't get any more desperate than an underdog in orange and blue. But what say you? Keep this in mind. Same thing applies to life that applies to our team. There's no struggle. There's no progress. But also remember this. Whether it's out there in the real world, with the airplanes flying ahead, or here in these YouTube streets, here in Knicks Deli, everybody eats. I'm not doing shit. Peace.